So it has been just over 6 months since I bought my Fujifilm GFX 50S and the Mitakon 65mm 1.4. I've made multiple videos about these two pieces of equipment and they are some of my most viewed videos. I was even more shocked that when I went to the photography stores at my university and they asked me what lens I had on my GFX and I told them the Mitakon, they searched it up and I was the second result. These pieces of equipment are somewhat staples of my channel and rightfully so, they are amazing. This video won't be me discussing the pros and cons or anything like that, but I'll be discussing 5 different questions that I've been asked on a regular basis over these last few months. So to start off, I think it's only fair to answer the most asked question of whether it is worth upgrading from APS-C or full frame to the GFX system, specifically the 50S. There isn't a simple way to answer this question as different people have different needs, but I'll try to sum it up as simply as I can. If you're wanting to upgrade to the GFX 50S for a higher image quality, more dynamic range, or a sharper image, then I say it depends what you are going to use those images for. If you are a hobbyist and you want the GFX 50S for those reasons, do not get it, it is not worth it. There is no point having that much resolution if you're just going to be posting to social media or making prints around your house. Save your money and get a full frame camera or even an APS-C camera. Most hobbyists don't need this much resolution. I definitely don't need this much resolution, but this is not what I bought the GFX for. If you are a professional and want the GFX for these reasons, then it might be worth your while, but that is if you are doing slower paced commercial work that requires lots and lots of detail or printing really large. But I can't recommend the GFX 50S if you're a professional and need something a bit more fast paced. It is an older and slower camera, and that doesn't mean it can't be used in a fast-paced environment, but it does mean you're going to have to practice quite a bit and get used to it. However, if you're wanting the GFX 50S purely for that medium format look, then I'd say think more about which lens you are going to get and if it's worth the money. The GFX lens lineup isn't great for that medium format look. While the lenses are insanely high quality and create an amazing image, only a few of them can sort of get that medium format look. The new 55 1.7 looks amazing and it's definitely something to consider if you have the money. The 80mm 1.7 also looks really good, but personally I find that too long of a focal length. And if you're wanting to get something similar to the 55 1.7 and save some money, then I recommend getting the Mitakon 65mm 1.4. While it isn't as sharp wide open and doesn't have autofocus, it is still an amazing lens. Even with these lenses, the GFX can struggle sometimes to get that medium format look. And that's purely because the sensor isn't big enough. Even though it's bigger than full frame, it's not loads bigger and there is still quite a jump from this sensor to like a 645 format. While I do have quite a lot of images that are comparable to medium format film, the majority look like they've been taken on a full frame camera that has a lens with a really wide aperture. For example, there is a guy that I follow on Instagram called Doomstash. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce his name, but anyway, he has a Sony a7R4 and the Voigtlander 40mm 1.2. And to be honest, sometimes I can't tell the difference between the photos that he takes on the 40mm 1.2 and the photos that he takes on the Mitakon 65 1.4. Overall, the GFX is worth it depending on what you're wanting to use it for. But if I found out about the Voigtlander 40mm 1.2 earlier, then I may not even have a GFX now because it is so similar and quite a bit cheaper. Right, that was a really long one, let's just get on to another question. Why use the Mitakon when it's a soft lens? Well, I use the Mitakon because it can get that medium format look a lot easier than other lenses. And while yes, it can be soft at times, when you nail focus, it's pretty sharp. I think some people don't like this lens because when you're wide open at f1.4, it can have that soft, dreamy look. But I rather like that look. And yes, I have taken a few images here and there where I would have preferred a lens that has edge-to-edge sharpness, but for 99% of my work, I am very happy with the sharpness of this lens. Also, like I said before, when you nail focus, it is sharp, but this lens is extremely difficult to get perfect focus. Since 1.4 is so ridiculously shallow on the GFX and you're manually focusing, it is really easy to miss focus by what seems like a millimeter. It's so shallow that your eyelids could be in focus, but not your eyes. Most of the time, people say focus on the eyelashes since the eyes will be in focus. But not with this lens, you have to actually focus on the eye itself, otherwise the image is going to be that slightest bit blurry. And it's especially difficult to focus on the eyes up close. When you're further away, it isn't that much of an issue, but when you're up close, it is really difficult and can be a pain in the ass. Should I get a 50S or a newer model? This one is actually really easy to answer. If you're wanting to shoot faster paced things, or you have a model that's moving around quite a bit, or anything like that, get a newer model. If you're wanting to shoot slower paced things that are more methodical, then the 50S will be perfect. What is a lens that you want to get for the system, or if you didn't have the Mitakon, what lens would you rather have? Well, I really like the 35mm focal length. I find that it's a perfect in-between of a 50mm and something wider, so I would definitely say a 35mm equivalent, so the 45mm f2.8 sounds perfect. For a while I was considering getting an adapter and an old 45mm medium format lens, so then I can use it on the GFX as a 35mm equivalent, but to be honest I would rather have a lens that has autofocus. I think that if I had a 45mm on the GFX, it may even become my most used lens. I love the Mitakon, but I find that it can be a bit tight at times, and the lack of autofocus can be frustrating. It's probably a lens that I will get in the future and most likely use it for documentary photography rather than portrait photography. Is the weight of the setup a problem? Yes, the weight of the setup is a big problem. I got used to the weight for a while and was pretty happy with carrying this camera on the neck strap. But after a short break with the GFX when I was mainly using my X Pro 3 just before I sold it, once I returned to the GFX I struggled to keep it around my neck for more than half an hour. And when I got to that hour mark, my neck was killing me and my back was hurting. I noticed it most when I went on a day trip with my university course to St Ives. Jen was using my X Pro 3 at the time and I was using my GFX, which was a big mistake. We were out for 4 hours in total and I struggled the whole time and was in a lot of pain. I spent a lot of the time with the camera actually in my backpack since it was hurting my neck so much, but then when it was in my bag it was weighing my shoulders down and then my shoulders were hurting. I just couldn't win that day. So yes, the weight is a big problem. I actually asked Doomstash, the guy I mentioned before, if it was worth getting the Voigtlander and putting it on my Sony, because right now I'm really struggling to carry the GFX around with me for more than half an hour. And it's making me not want to take it out in the first place because it is so heavy. It's more of a special occasion camera, even though I know I'll get great images with it no matter where I go, I just can't justify it because of the weight. Right, that was the last question of this video. If you have any more, feel free to leave them in the comments down below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I'm going to end this video with some of the images that I've taken with this setup in the last 6 months. Feel free to click off now, but if you want to see some images then stick around. There may be some that I've already featured in this video, but if you want to see more, stick around. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to check out my learning large format series. There should be a good video out next week. I'll see you soon. Goodbye.